Okay, I'm gonna start to put her hair up. And again, this is from that straight out of that 6-section set. Isn't that pretty wild how much volume that she has? So I'm gonna take a little bit of next day hair and I'm spraying where the widest part of the cone is hitting the hair. That's just gonna give it a little bit more grit. And if you remember, we were talking about that 80-20 rule. So I'm gonna pull this back into a loose kind of ribbony up style. And I want this to sit into a chignon in the back. And you can kind of see that even if I just hold it this way, we kind of have the shape built in already, but I want to make life easy for me. So let's hide 80% of this. So from ear to ear on her, I'm just going to section out this whole front. This is where I could have some height, or if I want to control and not have too much height, but still the ribbon, I can build this front over the back, if that makes sense. So this is a brush that I'm going to use to just put a little bit of a tease right at this crown, because I want some lift. Those inspiration pictures you sent me were really cool, and those had some height to them. So I'm back combing behind my section, meaning if it's laying this way, I want to back comb or back brush underneath because it'll be easier to hide. Then I'm going to smooth this out a little bit. Now I have my bump, my volume. Maybe we'll get a little bit more height up here on top. So with this look, I want to check for balance, I want to check for symmetry, and I want to check for proportion. That's actually, I think, the scariest part to me when I first started putting hair up, was learning what those were. But having a plan ahead of time is probably the most beneficial. So if I want it to be very symmetrical and straight back, then I'm going to be working that back comb, that back brush, to that spot, which is what we're going to be doing here. If she wants this a little asymmetrical, maybe off to the side, then I'm going to be building that shape. Everything's going to move to that side. What I don't want to do is work everything down to the center and then try to pull it to where I want it to go. I'm going to work with intention and get my plan there. So I'm going to take, I like these. This is just like a cloth hair tie. Can get them at the drugstores. I don't want to have too much tension on her hair. So this really helps me because I can go in, put the pony in, and now I'm going to just pull some of this out. This is the cushion for the top, and I'm checking balance as I go. I'm not going to worry about this yet because I want to bring in this top into the rest of it. So I'm going to just start laying ribbons of this hair over the top to see how I want this to sit. And this is where our artistry comes into practice here. We could have it as tousled looking as we want. We could have it really clean. I kind of like a little tousled. I think it looks a little bit more contemporary that way. But I'm going to show you the trick here. So these are U-pins. So U-pin doesn't have a lot of tension in there, and that's good. If I use a U-pin, I'm dating the section. If I use a bob pin, I'm marrying the section. So this is the bob pin, this is the U-pin. At this point here, I'm not quite sure how I want this 100%. That's okay. So I'm going to use these U-pins I'm going to take a coil, a ribbon of curl, so again, this is from the front. Take a ribbon of curl, and I'm going to overlap that coil and just pin in. And I'm going to weave it in, so that way that stays for me. What's nice though is if I do decide I want to move that around, I could take that out just by pulling that out. So I'm just using my creative eye and pulling these hairs back. So I start building the shape that I want. I think what happens a lot of times is us as technicians can overthink things quite a bit. And when we overthink things, we start making second guesses instead of just trusting the process and just start sculpting the hair. It could lead us into some really cool places here. So if I want a bang, I could give her a bang here. I kind of like this back. I think that's pretty cool, like a Nicole Kidman kind of a thing. But again, whatever you want to do in that front, because we're working in these sections that are controlled, I have the power to just sculpt the shape I'm looking for. If I like some of these pieces falling down, let them live down. If I want them cleaner and tighter, then pull them tighter. It's really important to step back. I'm using the camera, the lens, to check my balance here. And there's also a mirror behind this camera. So I'm checking my balance throughout this whole process. Please, please, please use that mirror if you have one. If you don't have one, I will do this. I will step in front of the model or the guest that I'm working on, and I will look and see the symmetry. So I'm gonna have you all take a look at the front. Something's happening here that I need to tighten. So I'm just gonna take my U-pin, pull and stretch. I've taken the U-pin and pushed it in towards the front. So I'm basically just buckling that in, and that tightened it up. So I keep showing because I want you to see where I'm at. Okay. I'm working with the layers that she has in her hair. Some people are going to come in and they're going to have a lot of hair. What's happening with hair trends right now, we are seeing a lot of hair, long hair. So what's cool is that we're going to have a lot of material. But when I'm working on my more mature clients, not all of them have long hair with no layers that sit down to here. A lot of them have a medium length, or they have a lot of layering inside. So I work with what the hair is telling me to do. And that's the most important part. If I'm not able to pull everything back tight, then I'm gonna use my fingers. I'm gonna stretch these curls, whatever I need to get this hair to look balanced for me. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to work on this lower bun here. So again, I'm not going to overthink this. She doesn't have a lot of hair. I'm going to take my brush and I'm combing this over my hand in the direction that I want this to sit. And I'm basically just creating just this fold, this like tube fold of hair. So here's the ponytail. I just smoothed it over. I'm wrapping this around and I'm gonna pin that tail in at the base. This, I wanna marry those sections. So I'm gonna be using bob pins. Think crisscross applesauce. So I'm gonna put one pin in. I'm not gonna stretch it open. If I stretch it open, it's gonna lose its tension. So I'm just gonna keep it tight and pushing in from the end and keeping my finger where that is. Crisscross applesauce means I wanna cross my pins. Crossing them is gonna lock them in. So I can have one wood going one way. There we go, I just crossed over. And use as many pins as you need to. I want her to be able to dance. I've done catalogs for jewelry magazines and we'll have, honestly, probably 4 days of 10 models per day that we're working and doing a photo shoot with all the jewelry. So I'm doing really fast up hair on these clients of this jewelry store. So they're coming in, they have their hair blown out how they normally wear it, and sometimes I'm having to pull it up, sometimes I'm having to redo it. I'm working with what they already have. So I would say my biggest bit of advice is when you're doing events is have an idea of where you want to go, but really be flexible. If you keep trying to make fetch happen and it's not happening, it just creates a lot of anxiety. So work with what they have. Honestly, I'm not afraid to tell people too, we don't need to do much to them, which sounds odd, but sometimes I'll just retouched up their great blowout and it works beautifully. So here's this low chignon up style with the ribbons of hair back. Again, if I get this too brushed out, it's gonna start looking really precious, and I want sexy, not precious. All right, I'm gonna show you the next style.